In all of Maine, there is nothing quite like the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. It is a unique place, remote and majestic, and it is the subject of a new work called This Extraordinary Place, a Guide to Allagash Ecology. With us here on 207 to talk about the book and about the place are Janet McMahon, who is an ecologist and a writer who contributed to this book, and Dan Dinsmore, who is the executive director of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway Foundation. Thank you both for coming in. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's just start with a quick definition, Janet. What is considered the Allagash Wilderness Waterway area? What are we talking about?
Okay, it goes from the headwater lakes and flows about 92 miles to the village of Allagash, and it's one of the few rivers that flows north in Maine.
Starts roughly west of Baxter State Park.
West of Baxter State Park and flows north to the village of Allagash on the St. John River.
In this book, it says that there is really nothing else quite like it east of the Mississippi. What is it that makes the Allagash, to use the adjective from the book, an extraordinary place?
Well, and I didn't realize this going into it, but it's probably the least developed river. First of all, there's no towns, there's no public roads, there's no agriculture, which in the St. John River streams come out of Quebec, which is farmed. There's no industrial development, mining, no cell service. So it's really the most remote, intact watershed east of the Mississippi for those reasons.
Dan, what was the reasoning, what was the thinking behind putting together this new guide, this guide to the ecology of the Allagash?
Well, the guide came out of Janet's work doing the very first ecological assessment of the Allagash. And so from that, we put together a river in space and time, which is Janet's work, really looking at the importance of protecting the Allagash. And so this guidebook was something that we wanted to develop that people could take along with them while they're on the Allagash to really fully understand the wildlife, the nature around you as you go down the river. We just felt it was important to take Janet's research and share it with a broader audience.
That research took place over 3 seasons that you spent in the Allagash from roughly springtime into the fall. You obviously went in there with knowledge of the area. What did you learn, though, over those 3 seasons that you were there?
So much, and the tip of the iceberg, really. But first, that the river changes remarkably from its headwaters, which are these large lakes, some of the largest in the state, to this marshy section with deltas and back channels, and then to the scoured shore that every winter is scoured by ice and flooding, so no trees are growing on it. So it's like 3 different rivers in one. Mm-hmm. And also it's got so many kinds of wetlands, bogs and fens and sedge meadows and more information than you want to know, but half of the waterway is wetlands, and there's so much wildlife associated with those, whether it's birds or insects, animals, reptiles, amphibians, so really diverse.
This is not an area, Dan, that is untouched by humans, but it's pretty lightly touched these days. However, one of the things that's happening is that trips are being put together for students from Maine to get out onto the waterway. Tell me a little about those.
So we've been doing trips on the Allagash. It's called Youth on the Allagash. It's really our primary program since 2016. And in 2026, so the 10-year anniversary of our program, we're expanding the program to involve all 8th grade students in the St. John Valley. So we've worked with the incredible administrators in that area to make sure that we can bake Youth on the Allagash into the school calendar, because we're really focused on raising that next generation of stewards. The folks who are really protecting the Allagash now, they're older, they're seasoned. We want to make sure that young people know what's in their backyard, know what's worth protecting, because it's a great resource. And so Youth on the Allagash gets us to the point where we can introduce all middle school students starting in 2026 to what's in their backyard in that incredible wilderness.
There's a saying about wild places, Janet, what we love, we protect. Why is it important to protect the Allagash?
Well, for the reasons I said, the wildlife, it stands out in so many ways that the assessment talks about. But it's changing, as we know. The climate is warming, and it harbors, it's the only place east of the Mississippi with 4 species of cold water fish together, who are going to be struggling if we don't manage it really well to deal with higher temperatures. And there's going to be pressures, whether it's mining or cutting. Very little of the forest, except along the immediate beauty strip, is older. because of forest management practices today. So it is changing, and our hope is if people care about it, they'll make sure that the watershed functions as a whole. It's not just about the little bit you see when you paddle.
As you said, Dan, we need stewards for generations to protect this.
We absolutely do.
That's got to be the final word. Again, thanks for coming in.
Thank
Dan,
you.
Janet, we
You're
appreciate you being here. Again, the name of this book is This Extraordinary Place. We've got more information on it in the 207 section of our app and website.